Good day again. This is the second part of our session, and we will talk about the epidemiology of malaria. Again, this is Dr. Kat Dukeli from the Department of Preventive and Community Medicine. So for our objectives for this second lecture, at the end of the session, the students should be able to explain the natural history and epidemiology of malaria and know the policies of National Strategic Plan for the Control and Elimination of Malaria in the Philippines. So just a brief background on the natural history of malaria. Its vector would be the Anopheles mosquito, and they are always out by the late evening, and these are night-biting mosquitoes. The causative agent is a parasite called Plasmodium species. It is usually found in rural areas of tropical countries, and the incubation period is usually 7 to 30 days from exposure. Usual symptoms are fever, shaking, chills, headache, myalgia, fatigue, nausea, and vomiting. So the management we will mention later, but they are usually chloroquine, primaquine, doxycycline, and clindamycin. And of course, the preventive measure would be to control for the vector, which is the Anopheles mosquito. So malaria is from the Italian malaria, which means mal for bad and aria for air, bad air. It's also known as the marsh disease, and descriptions of malaria go as far back as 3550 before Christ. It's caused by the species of the genus Plasmodium, and there are 9 subgenera of this Plasmodium species. So 3 occur in mammals, 4 occur in birds, and 2 occur in lizards, but they are transferred to humans by the Anopheles mosquito. So we have 4 known Plasmodium species. First, we have the Plasmodium vivax, and it is around 15% of the cases in the Philippines. We have the Plasmodium malaria and the Plasmodium ovale, which consists not so much of the cases we have in the Philippines. But what constitutes approximately 85% of the cases in the Philippines is Plasmodium falciparum. Okay, so we have a 5th species of Plasmodium, and it's called Plasmodium knowlesi. It is a primate malaria parasite commonly found in Southeast Asia. It causes malaria in long-tailed macaques or Macaca fascicularis. So that is the monkey. So Plasmodium knowlesi is isolated from the Philippines monkey or macaques in 1961. Its first naturally human infection was reported in 1965 in Malaysia. And the focus of cases reported was Sarawak, Malaysia, China, Thailand, and the Philippines in 2006 and 2008. 2,768 cases in 2022 were from Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. So the Plasmodium knowlesi parasite poses unique challenges in Southeast Asia. So this zoonotic parasite is known for its severe and rapid onset. So globally, there were 3,290 reported cases of this Plasmodium knowlesi in 2023, with an increase of around 19% over 2022, when about 2,700 cases were reported. Majority of these cases, again, as I've mentioned, was in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Cambodia. So the emergence of Plasmodium knowlesi could affect WHO's process for malaria elimination certification, which considers only the 4 human malaria parasite species transmitted by mosquitoes, which I have mentioned earlier. The Plasmodium falciparum, Vivax, malaria, and ovale. WHO is reassessing certification criteria in light of the Plasmodium knowlensis rise. So we go now to the vectors, which is the Anopheles species. So for the species, we have Anopheles flavirostris. It's the primary vector, and it breeds in clear, slow-flowing streams. We also have Anopheles littoralis, and it's a vector in coastal areas and breeds in brackish water. So likewise, this littoralis also abound in the province of Tawi-Tawi, which has a different biting behavior that must be taken into account for appropriate vector control measures. We also have Anopheles maculatus, Anopheles mangianus, and Anopheles balabacensis. So we now go to the global burden of malaria. And according to the World Malaria Report in 2024, there were an estimated 263 million cases of malaria worldwide in 2023. And this was a jump from the 2022 report of 249 million. So this represents about 11 million more cases in 2023 compared to 2022, and nearly the same number of deaths, no? Because the estimated number of malaria deaths stood at 597,000 in 2023. So approximately 95% of the deaths occurred in the WHO African region, where many at risk still lack access to the services they need to prevent, detect, and treat the disease. So in 2023, there were an estimated 263 million new malaria cases in 83 countries worldwide, up from the 252 million in 2022 and 226 million in 2015 as the baseline. So here we have the global tally of malaria deaths, which reached 597,000 in 2023, as I have mentioned, compared to 578,000 in 2015. So in 2020, the disruptions caused by COVID-19 led to a sharp increase in malaria-related deaths, with an additional of 55,000 fatalities. However, the total number of deaths steadily declined in the post-COVID period, together with the malaria mortality rate decline, and this is due to the resumption of malaria health protocols post-pandemic disruptions. So as you can see, the Philippines is clumped under the Western Pacific in both the tuberculosis and malaria global reports. So they are not under the Southeast Asian region. So going back to this graph, the Philippines also had an increase of 90% from 8,160 cases in 2022 to 15,505 cases in 2023. So several factors may explain changes in malaria transmission, with some increases in cases potentially linked to improved surveillance and reporting systems. However, challenges remain in certain countries in the region, including health system weaknesses, limited access to healthcare, and shortages of anti-malarial supplies. So Malaysia, as you can see, has been dropped as a malaria endemic country, with 0 cases reported for at least 3 consecutive years. Between 2000 and 2019, the number of annual estimated malaria cases remained stable across the 108 countries that were malaria endemic in 2000. So since 2020, the number of estimated malaria cases has steadily increased, and most of this increase occurred in countries from the WHO African region and the WHO Eastern Mediterranean region. So the main countries which contributed to this was Ethiopia, Madagascar, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Congo. So that was in 2022 and 2023. So here are the countries with indigenous cases in 2000 and status by 2023. So when we say indigenous cases, these are malaria cases contracted locally with no evidence of importation or no direct link to an imported case. So those countries in red, including the Philippines, have one or more indigenous cases documented. Countries in blue have 0 indigenous cases for more than 3 years already in 2023, and the green are certified malaria-free after year 2000. So in contrary, WHO has also certified 45 countries and 1 territory as malaria-free. So this certification is granted when a country can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the chain of indigenous malarial transmission has been interrupted nationwide for at least 3 consecutive years. So a country must also demonstrate the capacity to prevent the reestablishment of this transmission for years to come. So the latest addition would be Egypt in 2024, and for 2025 we have Timor-Leste and Suriname in 2025. What's remarkable with Suriname is that it's the only and the first country in the Amazon region to receive this certification after nearly 70 years of commitment to eliminating the disease. So again, here is the timeline of the 45 countries that was certified by WHO as malaria-free, and many countries with low burden of malaria continue to move steadily towards the goal of elimination. So aside from the 45 countries that was certified by WHO as malaria-free, there are 83 remaining malaria endemic countries, 25 of whom reported fewer than 10 cases of the disease in 2023. So as you can see here, those blue countries were automatically nominated to be malaria-free, and those in purple are new countries and areas added. So Philippines is not yet there, not even nominated. So what is the burden of malaria in the Philippines? The malaria burden has decreased from the more than 100,000 cases per year in the 1980s to the present annual figure of around 5,000. So in 2019 until mid-November, indigenous or locally transmitted malaria cases had been reported from only 3 out of the country's 81 provinces. So namely Palawan, Sultan Kudarat, and Mindoro Occidental. The remaining malaria focus in the country outside Palawan have now been eliminated or are close to being eliminated. So the number of provinces reporting zero malaria cases has increased from 71 in 2016 to 78 in 2019. So we have the DOH Administrative Order number 2011-0019 and it's the guidelines in the evaluation of low endemic provinces for declaration as malaria-free in the Philippines. So this Department of Health issuance outlines the procedures for assessing provinces with low malaria cases to officially declare them free from the disease, which involves establishing responses hubs and implementing surveillance programs. So, malaria cases in the country almost doubled in 2023, and the Department of Health believes that climate change contributed to the peak. So, the latest data from the DOH Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, or RITM, showed that about 6,248 cases were recorded in 2023, or 90% higher than the 3,245 cases posted in 2022, so the year before. A total of 72 provinces, however, have been declared malaria-free. So, as for the malaria situation in the Philippines, like I've mentioned, there is a drastic steady decline, except the one in 2023 from 2022. So, the goal is from malaria control to malaria elimination eventually. So, we have the Malaria Transition, Elimination, and Sustainability Plan, or the MTESP of 2023 to 2028. This replaced the previous National Strategic Plan for the Control and Elimination of Malaria in the Philippines, or the NSPCEM, which covered the years 2020 to 2022. Now, what is the goal of this MTESP 2023 to 2028? They aim that all 82 provinces of the country should be declared malaria-free by 2030, and this plan will be accomplished through the plan's 3 objectives. So, to reduce malaria in Palawan by 0 by the year 2026, declare 81 provinces malaria-free by 2027, and Palawan malaria-free by 2029, and sustain malaria-free status and prevent re-establishment of malaria transmission in the 82 provinces. So, looking back, as of 2013, out of the 80 provinces in the Philippines, 53 are malaria endemic, while 27 are malaria-free. The top 5 provinces having the highest number of malaria cases are Palawan, Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, Maguindanao, and Zambales. So, in 2020, the remaining malaria focus in the country outside Palawan have now been eliminated or are close to being eliminated. The number of provinces reporting 0 malaria cases has increased from 71 in 2016 to 78 in 2019. The number of provinces declared malaria-free after rigorous scrutiny at the same time increased from 36 to 50. In 2024, however, so, patients with signs and symptoms of probable malaria are confirmed either through microscopy detection of malaria parasites in gem-sustained blood smear, or the RDT, or rapid diagnostic test, in areas with no access to microscopy centers or during outbreaks. As for the treatment, So DOT stands for Directly Observed Therapy, as with your tuberculosis. So this is a treatment method where a healthcare worker or designated partner directly supervises a patient to ensure they take their prescribed anti-malarial medications for the entire duration of the treatment. So it's usually chloroquine, primaquine, or artemether and lumefantrine. So, travelers to malaria endemic provinces or regions must have prophylaxis of doxycycline 100 milligrams daily for 2 to 3 days before going to an endemic area, and continue while in the endemic area and for 4 more weeks after leaving the endemic area. Of course, pregnant women cannot take doxycycline, so for them, they can take sulfadoxine pyrimethamine, 3 tabs each at 2nd and 3rd trimester, and advice is given to pregnant women residing in stable transmission area to take prophylaxis. Here is the Global Technical Strategy for Malaria for 2016 to 2030. And this was adopted by the World Health Assembly in May 2015. This technical strategy provides a comprehensive framework to guide countries in their efforts to accelerate progress towards malaria elimination. So the strategy sets the target of reducing global malaria incidence and mortality rates by at least 90% by the year 2030. So reaching zero malaria-free by 2030 refers to the global and country-specific targets to eliminate malaria, with the World Health Organization setting a goal of 90% reduction in malaria cases and deaths and elimination in at least 35 countries by the end of this decade. So this ambitious goal requires intensified efforts in prevention, treatment, and surveillance, supported by international partnerships and the development of innovative tools like the new digital platforms and improved vector control. So contained in that strategy would be some treatment modalities such as long-lasting insecticidal nets. So these are highly effective tools for preventing malaria, featuring embedded or coated insecticides that provide protection for years without retreatment, lasting at least 3 years and 20 washes under normal use. So the World Health Organization recommends their universal use in malaria endemic areas. So we also have the indoor residual spraying, or the IRS, and this is a method for controlling disease-transmitting insects such as mosquitoes by applying long-lasting insecticide to the interior walls and other indoor surfaces of homes and buildings. So there are no nets involved, no? The insecticide remains effective for several months, killing adult mosquitoes that lands on the treated surfaces after they have taken a blood meal. So the indoor residual spraying complements other interventions like the insecticide-treated nets, especially where insecticide resistance is a big problem. There is also private hospital engagement in malaria, which involves integration into a national elimination strategy to improve diagnosis, treatment, and reporting, requiring thorough collaboration through training, supply of diagnostics like rapid diagnostic tests, ensuring quality case management, and developing surveillance systems. We also have malaria-free validation visits, which are on-site evaluation conducted by international bodies such as the World Health Organization themselves to verify a country's or region's claim of interrupting local malaria transmission and achieving malaria-free status. So these visits assess the quality and coverage of the National Malaria Surveillance System, the effectiveness of the malaria program in preventing the reestablishment of the disease, and the overall technical capacity of the health system, confirming the absence of indigenous or local cases for at least 3 consecutive years. Then we also have the Information, Education, and Communication, or the IEC for malaria, which involves spreading knowledge through various channels to change behaviors and increase the uptake of malaria prevention and treatment services, such as using mosquito nets and seeking prompt diagnosis and care should symptoms come. Effective information, education, and communication campaigns build awareness, improve knowledge about malaria symptoms and prevention, promote proper hygiene, and mobilize communities to prevent mosquito bites, thereby reducing the burden of the disease. So we too have mirrored these strategies into our National Strategic Plan for the Control and Elimination of Malaria in the Philippines, and this was seen in the 2020 to 2022 Executive Summary, which aimed also to eliminate malaria by 2030 in the Philippines. So the Malaria Study Group endeavors to work with the program towards this goal by carrying out research that advances the program efforts. So we have the Malaria Control Program and the Malaria Awareness Month, which is every November. So under this, we have stream cleaning, using of insect repellents, sleeping inside insecticide-treated net, wearing long sleeves and long pants, and indoor residual spraying in those malaria endemic regions or provinces. So in 2018, halfway houses also were constructed. These are treatment centers for malaria patients in Rizal to stop the mosquito-borne disease. So these centers has been strategically located to cover 11 barangays in the municipality because of the high malaria prevalence. So this is a private-public partnership to supervise the treatment and give free meals to also the patients. So what is covered by the PhilHealth in malaria infection? So earlier this year, PhilHealth increased its coverage for the following outpatient malaria services from 780 pesos to 1,170 pesos, which would encompass diagnostic malarial smears, rapid diagnostic test, medicines, particularly artemether plus lumefantrine, consultation, patient education, and counseling for malaria. And the members can avail these benefits at 1,816 accredited facilities, including primary care facilities, outpatient malaria centers, and accredited level 1, 2, and 3 hospitals. So the coverage for malaria without complications is also provided at 5,460 pesos at primary care facilities and 7,800 pesos at hospitals. So both inpatient and outpatient care are covered by the PhilHealth for our malaria patients. So we also have the Republic Act number 11332 from April 2019, and this is the mandatory reporting of notifiable diseases, which includes malaria among others, and health events of public health concern. So unfortunately, most rapid diagnostic tests for malaria target one or two specific proteins which is produced by falciparum. So these are the HRP2 and the HRP3 proteins. However, parasites with genetic mutations that prevent the expression of these proteins are spreading and in some settings becoming dominant among parasite populations. So without these proteins, they cannot be detected by the rapid diagnostic tests, which detects these proteins. So in 2023, these mutated parasites were reported in 41 malaria endemic countries. And although their prevalence is still low in most countries, it exceeds 15% in countries such as Brazil, Nicaragua, and Peru. So antimicrobial resistance in malaria occurs when Plasmodium parasites evolve to survive and multiply despite being exposed to antimalarial drugs. So it has emerged for nearly every class of antimalarial drug that is available, leading to treatment failures, increased morbidity and mortality, and a greater threat to global health. So there are also vector resistance to insecticides. Between 2010 and 2020, 29 countries confirmed resistance to at least one insecticide class in a malaria vector, with 29 of those countries detecting resistance to the 4 primary classes. So the pyrethroids, organochlorines, carbamates, and organophosphates. A total of 78 out of the 88 malaria endemic countries reported resistance to at least one insecticide class during this period. So just like the World Tuberculosis Day, we also have a World Malaria Day, and it is celebrated every April 25 of the year. So this is an occasion to highlight the need for continued investment and sustained political commitment for malaria prevention and control. So it was instituted by the World Health Organization member states during the World Health Assembly of 2007. So on World Malaria Day 2025, World Health Organization joined the Rollback Malaria Partnership to end malaria and other partners in promoting Malaria Ends With Us, Reinvest, Reimagine, Reignite. It is a grassroots campaign that aims to re-energize efforts at all levels, from global policy to community action, to accelerate progress towards malaria elimination. So in summary, we have discussed about the global and Philippine burden of malaria, the natural history of malaria, and the DOH program on malaria elimination. With that, here are my references. Thank you and good day.